morning, everyone, and welcome to this breakout session. The innovation process. Is it method or madness? It is my honor to introduce the moderator of this session, Rick Harriman. Rick is a senior fellow at Synaptics World Inc., the 53-year-old international consulting company focused on creativity and innovation. Formerly, he was CEO and managing partner for several decades. Rick is a patent holder and author of a number of articles and book chapters on creativity in business. He co-authored Creativity Inc., Building an Inventive Organization, published by the Harvard Business School Press. Rick is an innovation fellow in the Technology and Entrepreneurship Center, School of Engineering and Applied Sciences at Harvard University. He co-teaches a course there in innovation in science and technology. Prior to joining Synaptics World, he had positions in marketing management and new product development. Rick holds an undergraduate degree from the University of Massachusetts and an MBA from Columbia University. Outside of work, Rick is actively engaged in several community organizations, currently serving as the president of the Cambridge Community Foundation. With that, I will turn it over to Rick.
Thank you. So imagine for a moment that you're working for Japan Railways Company, and you're getting a lot of negative feedback from the neighbors of the backside of tunnels. That as the bullet trains go through this fairly narrow tunnel, they build up a high level of compression, comes out the other end as a sonic boom. Well, in the course of this, the normal methods of solving it had not yet been successful. And the person, one of the people responsible for that, who happens to be a person who loves birds and loves nature, asked himself, I wonder what inspiration I might be able to get from this very distant world of nature to this particular problem. And he gets inspired by a common kingfisher bird. This is a bird that flies over water, gets hungry, sees its prey down in the water, dives down into the water, and is successful. And one of the reasons successful is he's able to go at fairly high speed from the air into the water without making hardly a splash at all, virtually splashless. And he gets the sort of inspiration that says going from low resistance to high resistance, maybe we can use that. So they do a series of simulations, and part of the simulations is shooting bullets down small narrow tubes with differently designed noses to simulate the different shapes. And it turns out that it works. And so what was added to the bullet trains was a 15-meter long nose that is, and a few other structural changes that are shaped virtually the same as a kingfisher's beak and head, the way it goes from the sharpness of the wedge shape into the roundness. Now, in doing this, what they're doing to solve the pressure problem, it reduced electricity use. It allowed them to go 10% faster and made for a smoother ride. So if we look at this, we could take this as this relatively simple incremental innovation as an example of sort of the more madness kind of end of the spectrum. We say the normal course of solving it in an organization was not working, but here's somebody using apparently irrelevant material from a very, very distant world and making that moment. So what might be defined as either genius, or luck, or serendipity, this eureka moment comes from thinking about how that distant world might work. Another view would say, no, maybe it's more a method, more a part of a method. The organization I work with, we found it extremely valuable to help people when they're stuck with problems that need innovation, to get out of the context within which they're working into other worlds to make connections. And in fact, in a very broad sense, what this gentleman was doing in the field of innovation, we refer to as biomimicry, and it's very powerful. So we have today with us three proven innovators, people who have innovated very successfully in a range of areas, from drug discovery to business model innovation to innovation in advanced product development. And in response to the request of the program committee, they have graciously agreed to spend some time sharing their perspectives on innovation. What's worked, what's not worked, some personal examples. And then during the course of that, maybe some reflections upon how much of it's the individual, that sort of magic of the Eureka moment, and how much of it has something to do with methodologies. So I assume in your coming here that you read the bios of the people and have a feeling for the background. So I'm just going to spend a minute on a couple of the highlights to help provide the context for some of their remarks. Bharat, directly to my right, is Executive Director of the Center for Advanced Vehicle Technology. He's a professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering and the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Alabama. He recently retired from 37 years of research in advanced engineering, product innovations, and process technologies at Mercedes-Benz in Stuttgart. For the most recent 15 years, he was IT VP of Engineering R&D. He has a great breadth and depth of understanding of knowledge in automotive engineering and innovation, successfully leading and collaborating in mixed multicultural environments in Germany, India, China, and the US. Using in part as unconventional thinking patterns and problem-solving approaches, gives it a very high success rate on innovative strategic bets such as battery, electric vehicles, stereo cameras, fusion of radar and camera, and many others. Delight to have you at the end, we have Galdino Claro, who's the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Sims Metal Management. He has nearly 30 years experience as a global executive in the worldwide metals industry. He served as Executive VP and CEO of Metals and Minerals at Harsco Corporation. He also held various positions over a 20-year period with Alcoa. He has a mechanical engineering background, certified expert in total quality, and has led organizations in many countries, including when he was president of Alcoa in China, speaking 5 languages. Welcome. And in the middle, we have Kasim Mookhtiar, PhD. He's a co-founder and the Chief Scientific Officer of Advinus Therapeutics in India. It's actually their first innovative pharmaceutical research and development company based in Bangalore and Pune. At Advinus, he is the head of drug discovery with over 21 years of experience in drug discovery and innovative pharmaceutical research. He is multidisciplined with depth of experience in both chemistry and the biology of drug discovery. Following 11 years of pharmaceutical research with Bristol Myers Squibb in the US, Kasim returned to India in 2003 as Vice President of New Drug Discovery Research at Ranbaxy Laboratories Limited, where in 2 years he built a team of over 200 scientists from multiple disciplines to form a productive and creative group of drug hunters with a culture of innovation and teamwork. I read this and bring this up because it's in multiple industries at multiple levels, from the scientific at the lab level all the way up to the CEO level of fostering innovation and fostering the cultures. So we're very fortunate to have that. The way we'll work is we'll have introductory remarks from each person, then a dialogue, and then hopefully we'll have some time to open up to questions. So if you could start, please.
Thank you very much, Rick. It's a great pleasure to be here with old friends and new friends. What I thought I'd do today is just quickly share some common sense stuff with you. And I'm sure if I ask any one of you some of the points I'm going to make, and they're going to be obvious to you. The idea of bringing them up in a forum like this is to try to get you to think about putting it all together when we actually need to innovate, which might be every day. So it's putting together a whole bunch of common sense things and actually doing it, and that's what the title is, actually applying the common sense things that we're talking about. Okay, what promotes innovation? What inhibits it? What is it that we do every day that will help us in our endeavors, and what will hold us back? In promotion, we really need to think big, dream big. I mean, if we don't dream big, how are we going to come up with the innovative solution to that? I'm a believer that, anything is possible. You won't know it's doable or not till you actually do it. So dream big. I keep an open mind. I never think that I have the best idea. So it's anybody here could come up with a solution, whether you are a drug hunter or not. It doesn't matter. I believe in the diversity of thought and experiences. I think it's when very different things come in juxtaposition to each other is when you create a new idea, creation. And it's important that we have all of these things. Many of you all say, okay, I'm studying too hard. You take a break because you can't come up with a solution. You go do something else. You listen to music, you watch a movie. When you come back and voila, the answer's there. I always believe in luck. No matter what it is, I'll take the solution if it comes by luck. So I never shy away from that. Luck is not pure accident. It's your mind is prepared. So what inhibits it? Creativity and innovation really, there cannot be a process to it. I can't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to innovate now. That's not going to happen. It's just, it happens. So you can't put processes together. You can't put teams together and say, okay, now let's have a brainstorming session. I don't know what a brainstorming session really is. It's just rehashing of ideas. But the creative spark, the actual innovation has already occurred in here. You may want to, in a brainstorming session, ask your fellow colleagues whether it's a good idea or not. But the creation is unique in your head. Timeline. Can you really have a timeline to creation? I don't think so. I mean, it may happen anytime, anywhere. And focus. In focus, we only just narrow ourselves down rather than open ourselves out to new ideas and new ways of doing things. So, dreaming big. I'm on a little panel that thinks about the vision, the techno vision for India and health sciences, health care and life sciences for India in 2035. So we're talking 25 years down the road. In this committee of people, the proposals that we experts, like myself, thought about is just more of the same. It's listed on the right-hand side. We just want to do only incremental things, actually execution of a vision rather than creating a vision. If we look at the left-hand side, that's from students. The students really dreamt big. They wanted to have 100% human brain activation, which could function like a humanoid, or an eye that could zoom in and out to help blind people. And they really dreamt big. Are these possible? We don't know, but we won't know till we try and we think about these things. So I call it the unabashedness of youth. They know no boundaries, they're fearless. They want to think of new things, while old fuddy-duddies like me think about same old, same old. You look at the promoters, it's open mind. You really never know where the best idea comes from. So I always tell the kids in my group, I said, it'll be coming from the back of your head and hit you there, and you wouldn't even know it. So keep an open mind so it sticks. And you have to be open to the idea that your idea is not necessarily the best one. Some guy out there might think of something or spark something that gives you a better idea. Have to be open-minded. I told you about diversity. That's a brain full of many, many different things. And it's that neuronal connection between two very different things that creates a new spark, a new idea, an innovation. So, experiences and thinking in diverse ways helps a lot. Usually you find that solutions or innovations come from people who are outside of, a chemistry solution could be solved by an engineer. I know that's tough, but it's possible. Never, ever, I never close my mind to any ideas that are coming from anyone outside the field. I actually work on it. I told you about luck. I take luck any day. A eureka moment could be sitting in a bathtub, or committees, on an application, or the New Jersey Transit. I know that's also tough, but Einstein had his moment on the New Jersey Transit train, right? The inhibitors, process. That poor duck or goose or what you have as the innovation. Process just kills it. And if you want to be creative, you cannot map out how you will be creative. Because in one sense, it's a stochastic event of the coming together of two diverse ideas, two diverse signals to create a new signal. So no innovatives, you can't plan it. You can discuss your ideas, but you can't plan to create it. Timelines, depth. I need this new solution by the 20th of July. Well, there's no guarantee anything's going to happen by the 20th of July. And finally, focus, boxes you win. I couldn't resist this, so I had to put Lenin in there. Imagine, it's easy if you try, just let your mind go, open your mind up, keep imagining. That will get you to the creative and the innovative ideas. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the company I work for, Siemens, is the largest recycler in the world. And of course, innovation is in the very core of what we do, because every time we develop an innovative solution, it results on avoiding the environmental consequences of a landfill somewhere. So it is extremely important for us. As the CEO of a company that operates 300 operation facilities across 50 countries, totally driven by innovation, I of course have seen several strategies with innovation activities being developed across the globe. And interesting enough, sometimes no matter how exciting, innovative, a strategic agenda might be, if it's not well executed, it doesn't get anywhere. So execution is in the very core of it. And execution is a discipline that is less sexy than innovative. It talks about much more orientation toward facts, controls, maps, targets, and not necessarily this is the most attractive part of it. And this is what I want to talk about, because I have seen very interesting, innovative strategies getting nowhere, and sometimes mediocre, innovative decisions transforming companies. And so keep that in mind. Innovation is wonderful. It's the fuel of any sustainability process for a company. But without execution, it's just an idea in there. So there are, in my point of view, and based on my experience, three major enablers of success for any company that has innovation in the core of its business model. And the first of them, as I said, is the execution discipline. Is the ability of an organization to take an idea and break it down into strategic tactics that have to be executed on time, that can be transformed on deployable actions, that people get excited by executing those smaller actions that will create the foundation for that innovative agenda. That defines single point of accountability, and we don't like to have the single point of accountability sometimes in execution, but that's the way things get done. Otherwise, they, again, will stay in that cloud of ideas that, frustrate us because they never get to the point. And then rewarding and recognizing people that execute as much as we do reward and recognize people that create innovation. We were discussing the importance of execution when we were together prior to this session, and we are, putting our ideas together in terms of the importance of copy and paste sometimes, as much as create, because at the end of the day, innovation only makes sense if it brings value to shareholders. And that drives me to my second point. Another important factor in any innovative agenda for the company point of view are innovation that are oriented towards the customer needs. If you're innovating something or you're creating a solution that makes no difference to your customer, who's going to pay for it? It's a business model. Companies exist to make money and not to create ideas. Ideas are only valid if they add value to the customer and therefore become something important for the company. So understanding the customer needs when you're developing your innovation agenda is vital to the success of any organization. As well as understanding the industry trends. You know, the dynamics of the economy change, the global dynamics are changed, so something that is very innovative today here makes a lot of sense for a certain strategy may change, you know, a few months ahead. Things that were sustainable for 10 years, now they are valid for 3 months. So the development of any innovative agenda needs to be very oriented toward what's happening with the industry it addresses. And don't forget your competitors, because they are innovative too. And if your innovation agenda doesn't take in consideration the aspects of the competitiveness of your marketplace, you might be very happy in what you do, but guess what? Your customers may be happier with what your competitors are doing, and then you're in trouble again. So don't lose the customer focus when you're putting an innovative agenda together. And the third, and probably the most important factor, is that keep in mind that you innovate to your shareholders. And being a public company like Sims is, or a private company, family-owned, it doesn't matter. The objective of innovation is to make money. For yourself, if you're the owner, or for the ones that support you in that position. And innovation needs to generate returns. People put money in companies because they want fast returns. So this idea of I'm going to develop this thing that's going to pay back in 10 years, forget it. Doesn't work. Companies want profitable growth. So if the innovation doesn't drive profitability nor growth, it's not an innovation, just a nice idea. Innovation needs to be intellectually protected. If you develop something today that can be copied tomorrow, it might be nice, but doesn't support a business case. And lastly, it needs to be sustainable, which is related to the other 3 items. So, innovation is a money machine. If you can make it well, if it's oriented towards your customer needs, if you can execute against it, and if it's oriented towards your shareholders' objectives, then you have a business case, God bless you. If you don't, you're going to drive into a lot of frustration because ideas are nice to have, and they frustrate a lot of people when they don't get that. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
There are 2 things I would like to start with. First, you need to excuse my accent. I think we have a culturally rich, culturally differentiated accents here. Kasim with Indian English, Galdino with Italian, and mine with German English. That's the tribute I paid to being last 38 years in Germany. And the second thing, some of you guys are wondering, are any of us from IIT? Yes, Kasim and I are from IIT Bombay. And I hope there are some IIT Bombay guys who will cheer us. Thank you. I would like to make 2 points in my speech now. One is, what does the automotive world look like when we talk about innovations? Is it more method or is it more madness? And the second is, what are the cultural differences in innovating between Germany and the US, both of which I have been very extremely involved with. So let me start with some of the characteristics of automotive innovations. We have extremely large R&D teams. So if you look at the 3 big companies in Germany, we have over 50,000 plus engineers. If you add Bosch and Conti to it, we have another 30,000 engineers. And they are all doing R&D work, very deep down R&D work in new innovations, etc. Mercedes itself has about 11,500. When you talk about R&D, you're talking about very high upfront investments when your innovations go into production. And now comes a new factor. Today, almost all innovations, I would put it between 80 and 90%, require some form of electronic control units, software, firmware, etc., and sensors and actuators to make them work. And we have a very different solution evolution, unfortunately, we were not able to catch up with the IT industry, where you have a reset button, and if something is not working, you stop the car and reset it, and then drive on again. We find our customers are not accepting it, so there's no reset button. The second is, and this is very interesting, the product liability. Every software download you do, you have to press somewhere, I agree. And I don't know how many times I've pressed I agree without knowing whether I'm donating $5,000 to the company every time I press I agree, or what am I agreeing to. We try to do this. Some of you who drive Lexus or Toyota know when you start the navigation system, you have to press I agree. But now we have gone away from it because in a product liability case, it doesn't help you any. We are from the old world, so we have full product liability. We have not been able to convince the juries that I agree that my brakes can fail sometime. I agree that my car can go off the road. It hasn't worked. So we have to do a terrific amount of testing in extreme conditions in Alaska, in Houston, etc., so that these systems work well. And so my final point, research in these large companies is about taking strategic bets in which direction you want to move the company and how do you want to move it. That's why, as against what Kasim says for his branch, I say research in the automotive industry is 90% method and 10% madness. And I would like to showcase this in one example. But before I do that, allow me to be a professor quickly and tell you 3 basic points how we do our projects. Between 160 months before job number 1, the first vehicle that we build for the customer, we see to it that the innovations function in principle, that the innovations match the brand claim. For Mercedes, for example, it's safety, it's comfort. For BMW, it's powertrains. For Toyota, it's hybrids, etc. Then after another period of time, between 60 and 40 months, we do a concept proofing. That means these innovations can be integrated into the vehicle, and we have selected all the systems, we have defined the systems, modules, and components. And the final step, it's about 40 to 30 months, it's series proof. That means these innovations work in prototypes. We have confirmed their testing worthiness, and we can start tooling and sourcing. Once you start tooling and sourcing, you're talking about tremendous investments. You're talking about anything between $200 to $1 billion to get these things started, and there's no way back. Let me showcase this on the example of the stereo camera. It's by chance that I picked this. Yesterday, those of you who attended the evening dinner heard about the guy who was raving about the digital camera. I also rave about the stereo camera in vehicles for a simple reason. Up to about 20 years ago, all our sensors were reactive. So you needed to get into a crash before the airbags deployed. You needed to go into a skid before the electronic stability control or anti-lock braking systems came in. We started in the early 90s to develop radar, and this is there in many of your cars in adaptive cruise control. And the camera is, for me, the ultimate thing because our perception of traffic of the world is through 2 eyes, through 3-dimensional vision. And the stereo camera tries to emulate this, and so there's a wealth of applications that you can generate from the stereo camera. Principle proved in this case was about 5 years ago, where we could show to our colleagues in series development the detection, recognition of objects, precise tracking of objects, and fusion this with long and short range radar. A few years later, series proved about 3 years ago, where we could add and show how these applications could take place in the context of accident-free driving, cross-traffic collision prevention, head-on collision prevention, lane departure protection, etc. And this is not science fiction. This is already there today in my old S-Class, which is 2 years old, as also in the new S-Class, which has just come out last October. And advanced driver assistance systems, high-speed lane keeping, full autonomous low-speed driving. So the new S-Class, and I drove it yesterday and today on Houston roads, in traffic jam, everything is autonomous. Braking, steering, acceleration. And when you go into adaptive cruise control, almost everything is autonomous. You just need to keep a light hand on your steering when you're driving 60 miles per hour. And I've been doing this last 2 days on your highways here. What is the technology for it? And this is the methodology. The stereo camera looks like this. And on the right-hand side, you see a wealth of sensors, long-range radar, short-range radar, medium range radar, fusion with camera, etc. Now some of you are thinking, yeah, this is all high-tech, but it's not relevant to my car. And just let me add as an aside, that's the way people thought 40 years ago when Mercedes got out in the new S-Class, anti-lock braking systems and airbags. Today, every one of you has that in your car. So it cascades down from premium luxury vehicles into other model lines. In the early 90s, electronic stability control. All European cars have it today, and by 2015, all American cars will also have it. In 1998, long-range radar, 2005, short-range radar, and I guarantee you in another 5 to 10 years, most of your cars will have that. And then a stereo camera, and for me that's the ultimate. It would be going into about 2020, 2030, almost all cars would have some form of camera technology to assist you in driving. Now comes the madness part. Of course, we have certain madness in our R&D. One of the madness was we have an active suspension system, and there was a talk about how can you utilize the suspension system for more comfort. And one of our engineers came up with the idea of laser scanners, and this is a research car with a laser scanner, and I let it run, and it scans the road surface and force feeds back the profile of the road, the active suspension, so that the suspension corrects itself and your car glides over like a magic carpet over the road. No one told, almost everyone told us this couldn't be done, and we showed it, but the scanners were very expensive. They cost about $40,000 each, next to the headlamps. And you need a small step into madness. Look at the C-Class below on the same track, so you notice the difference. And what you see is what you feel. Galdino has become a special friend. He's taking delivery of this car 2 weeks ago, and I have my car here, and I was driving it the last 2 days and wondering why other people's suspension was bad who were traveling next to me because their cars were jumping up and down. And I realized the road is bad, and I have magic body control in my car, and it just glides over everything. It's something unbelievable. Now, this was with laser technology, and the madness that came in was, can we do it with a stereo camera? Now the human eye, when you look and when you walk, if I walk towards you, I see these wires, my eyes register them, but they don't register the precise shape, and they don't keep it in the brains. We taught our camera to look at road profiles in real time. That was the madness part. And now the camera can drive at 70 miles per hour and analyze a road surface, left side, right side, to an accuracy of plus minus 2 millimeters, and force feed back that into the suspension. So those of you who don't believe me, read Car and Driver. I'll just quote what he says. This was 3 years ago, where Magic pretty accurately describes it: drive a bumpy, lumpy road with the system turned off, and then with Magic body control activated, and the difference is really unbelievable. On one run, we approached a visibly scarred road that was in single finger, the type where everyone in the car frantically searched for a handhold in anticipation at a wildly excessive speed, and the suspension shut it off, keeping the body level and the passenger compartment relatively serene. So Google Magic Body Control, but one word of caution: add Car and Driver, otherwise you land into Victoria's Secret. Word of caution. And this is true. When my colleague and I coined the word magic, at that time when you went into Magic Body Control, the first few hits were Victoria's Secret. Today we are banned to pay 5 or 6. So pardon me ladies, you'll have to go through some other additional words to get into Victoria's Secret. So now, the madness, we also decided that we would try to showcase this also in a way that people would appreciate it. And this is 3, 2, 1. think a German company would do this, but we are doing it. And finally, the second point. We are talking a lot about innovations, and having lived the first 23 years in India, next 38 years in Germany, and also being responsible for international R&D operations for Mercedes in China, India, in the US, I've developed a sort of what are the major differences that I see which are culturally dominant. In the German system, we are very risk-averse society. That means if you are doing a startup, it's very, very difficult to send someone into a startup. All they want to know is, can I come back to the parent company in 3 years? If you look at the United States, no risk, no fun. If you have a failure, you move on to the next project, and there's no stigma attached to it. Second point, in Germany, you remain in the same company lifelong, like I did for 38 years, and it's not unusual. In the United States, I'd say we move on depending on your successes or failures, and this also leads to different remuneration. Many people make millions in Germany, and a few make billions here in the United States. The innovations in Germany are very, very long-term oriented, and I think here the innovations in the United States are very fast, and probably that's also the reason why the automotive companies in the United States are not very successful. So in summarizing, I would say the German system is more method and less madness. The system in the United States is more madness and less method, and society channels innovation effort and determines which industries profit the most from it. Thank you very much.
Panel of things that one of you said that might have triggered off somebody else. I would like to start with a question. You mentioned the comparison between Germany and the US at the moment. How have you, as leaders, looked at what do you do different or the same to foster innovation and creativity in your operations? Do you find that in different cultures, you use either different methodology or different approaches? How would you characterize that?
Having grown up essentially in the U.S. on the professional level, the culture here is described very well, quite different from that in India. India is very hierarchical. It's very difficult to get people to speak out when the boss is sitting at the table. And so one of the things that I always insist on is I walk into a meeting and I say, okay, I left my CSO hat outside, and we're all just scientists here now, and we need to discuss just the science of what we're doing. And it's not been easy. It took many, many years to create that culture. I'm glad we're there now, but it took a lot of time because they had to unlearn a lot of things before they learned how to be open and speak about their ideas without fear of punishment. So we don't punish people at all. I mean, there's no consequences of making a mistake, an honest mistake. And we had to demonstrate that, actually, to show that, okay, you're allowed to make this mistake. Why don't we think of something new? That helped in getting people to speak of their ideas and creative endeavors.
I see two aspects of that. One is the cultural diversity plays in favor if you use it in the right way, right? I mean, people working with different cultures actually it moves you a little bit out of your zone of comfort, and out of your zone of comfort, you become more creative. And surrounding yourself with people that think exactly the same way may give you a little bit of comfort, but also creates an environment where creativity and innovation is not permeated. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is for people really to put the culture of the company above their individual perspectives. We need to create a corporate culture that overcomes the individual cultures. So, strong companies across the globe, the major value really they create is their own culture. And so people that work for Mercedes, that work for Siemens, that work for those companies, they belong to that culture, and that is sometimes stronger than their individual perceptions of things. And that what was make them, a member of that group, and where, innovation flows in a certain way, execution flows in a different way. So that's all part of corporate culture that overcomes the individuals. That's the idea.
Can I add one more thing to it? The cultural differences. You know, German engineers have a pretty fixed set of mind what they think the customers need. One of the worst examples, and all you guys can certainly confirm that, we believed no cup holders for you in the last 20 years. Because we said in an expensive car, you're not allowed to eat and drink, so no cup holders. So all German engineers refused to make cup holders. The Japanese got out excellent cup holders, and it took us 20 years to learn that the customer needs it, and you'll clean up your car with special cleaners if you spill coffee, and now we have good cup holders. So it took us a lot of time. And a second example, which is also negative, but which we saw positively very fast, that was a question of smartphone integration, iPhone integration into vehicles. German engineers thought this was not necessary at all. And what I did here in the United States, I found out it was a totally digital society, and for most people without smartphone integration, they would not consider buying the car. So my group in Palo Alto developed a project, a kit where you can connect a smartphone into the car. This kit was retrofitted. At least 200,000 cars, which were imported every year into the United States, were torn apart and retrofitted. And about 4 years ago, Sindelfing in Germany woke up and said, we'll do it as a factory fit. So my point here is, because of the cultural differences, the United States is a digitally savvy society. My staff could develop solutions, and now they have become the competence center for Mercedes-Benz worldwide, developing solutions in Palo Alto for Germany, for US, for India and China. So cultural differences can be harnessed into doing something dramatically different for the company.
So maybe I can ask a question of my colleagues here. What I've found is, while I'm very democratic in a lot of things, especially the science, what has worked for our organization is the organizational culture is the one thing that's top down. I've tried it the other way, and I think there's a lot of confusion just because of the diversity of thought and opinions of various people. And if you really want to create what Galdino called the corporate culture, or the company culture, I found that it was effective top down. I just thought maybe you can share your thoughts on whether that's your experience as well, as a top down, and you're allowed to be bottoms up.
I think it's a combination, to be honest with you, but it needs to start top down. I think the top management team has to decide what type of culture would make more sense for the company's sustainability going forward, and then permeate that culture through the organization. However, if you ignore the aspects of the cultural aspects of the global footprint sometimes in the process of deploying that culture, it might take much longer than what you want. So it's a combination of what you want to do versus what is the raw material, human raw material that you have in your hands to permeate that in a faster way as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Global can be very different.
Yes.
Another perspective on that, Kasim, is that the problem we need to avoid is ain't it awful. If only senior management would be more supportive of innovation, if only our ideas weren't constantly being shut down, if only we could have an environment where innovation could thrive, it can paralyze an organization. So what I think can happen is you can have innovation lower in the organization and create almost mini climates or mini cultures in the organization. Clearly much more difficult, clearly not as effective as having it from the top down. But I wouldn't want organizations, people in middle management to be saying, gee, I want to do more innovation, but I can't because of what's happening at the senior level.
Very good. Paralysis.
I think there's a question.
I want to ask you my aspect of innovation. I was working for Exxon Research on and that time some contractors came and a lot of research people on innovation. And the two examples that we gave came back to my mind as examples of innovation. One is the 3M innovation of the sticky notes. It was not about the ground, but then there's people who thought about it, then they changed it to the how to do that thing and do. So that's a different kind of innovation. It was designed for different things, but ultimately used them in a different way. Another example was Seacoast put up a watch. When that one example came, Swiss companies refused it because they always were using the dual. The Japanese company realized that importance of the quad watch, for example, and they immediately took it and they took money out of it. So these are different types of innovation, which were paid, some people didn't recognize it, other people recognize it. So part of the innovation is also identify what the need is, what will be the need of the product. So we try to keep that important into our mind. And don't know anything what is commercial, try to find uses of it. That's all kind of
Thank you. I think one of the other interesting aspects of the example that you raised of the Post-it notes gets to one of the processes. 3M was one of the original companies that implemented 15% time, where people were given the opportunity to work on projects or issues or initiatives that were not on the roadmap of things. And part of, with Art Fry working on that, part of the Post-it notes came out of that effort to exploring really bad adhesive, which is essentially what the Post-it note does. And I'd actually like to use that for a bridge for a second, and then I'll come right back to this question here. It was mentioned that processes that would get in the way. And yet on the other hand, we have a discussion about methodology being 90%. I'd like to take it down a level as to, because I think the language may be an important issue that you referred to, is what are the methodologies that are not necessarily processes in the sense of the bureaucratic processes that stop things, but that can be helpful in promoting innovation and creativity?
Yeah, when I meant processes, and what I was referring to is an organized, orderly way of creating something new. That's what I meant by that. I actually differentiate between the innovative process and creation or creativity from the execution that Galdino spoke so passionately about. He's absolutely right. An idea is a great idea, but it's not going anywhere. It's worthless. It just remains in your head, and that's about it. The creative process does not require an orderly way of thinking, I think. And once that spark has started, and you've created a new thought, a new idea, a new function, something new, to execute that and make it into something useful, then you would require processes that spoke. So I was referring more to the creativity part of it rather than translation.
And I agree. This balance between creativity and discipline is at the core of this discussion. Because typically people would believe that you can't have creativity if you have discipline, or you can't have discipline if you don't have creativity. This is not how it really works. The two constituents can live together very nicely if the culture allows it. So you have to stimulate creativity as much as possible because, as you said, it's part of a solution. It comes from an unprocessed environment. However, when a solution is identified, then you kind of close the door of creativity in your mind, open the door of execution discipline, and focus. And that's a very difficult thing for people to do, individually as well as for organizations, to create that environment that allows the coexistence of both aspects. Very difficult.
For large organizations, I find that you would need to give them a vision of what you want to do. And for Mercedes, it was a vision of accident-free driving, which I extend it to accident-free and autonomous driving, and let the engineers and scientists find ways of which technology and how to do it, and that's where the creativity starts. But you need to coordinate in which direction you want to go and to bring them all together. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to get a couple of thousands of engineers working towards a common goal.
As you were talking, it reminded me of the quote of Steve Jobs when he was asked about creativity and innovation. It was a little too product specific, but it was sort of like, I thought, an elegant short phrase. And he basically said, innovation is creativity that ships. So it's the creativity is that getting the idea, that inspiration, the connection, the newness, and the reflection in the innovation process is not just the grunt work, but it needs a continuous creative throughout the process. This gentleman here.
My name is Jagannath. I think I come from India, so it's a very small question. All of you have been working large companies talking about processes. They will really come up with a startup kind of environment. It's a madness which drives. So my question is in two parts. Do you have any innovation method for innovation without money? Okay. Secondly, the madness part of the game. Unless you are a large companies like you, that cannot be eliminated from the process. So do you have any answer?
I'll take the first one. On the innovation without money thing, return is a function of risk. You have, it's high risk, high return, low risk, low return. Every company or every organization needs to have room for venture capitalism development initiative, the entrepreneurship. And those ideas will have a low ratio of consolidation, which has to be understood as a normal fact. So, you may have 200 ideas and one work, right? But that one that work will have a high return. So I think it's a risk-return balance, as simple as that. You have to motivate and incentivize people to come out with new solutions, new ideas, no matter what. Some of them will work, some of them won't. What we can't do is lose yourself on the process of creating and forget why you are creating. Because if you do that, then you become a pocket of ideas that never get consolidated. But that, again, goes back to this balance between innovation and execution. When you are on the innovation side, it's high risk, high return. When you are on the execution side, it needs to be predictable to get executed. Yeah, it's tough, but it needs to coexist.
Let me add one more thing. In large corporations, I think leadership determines to what extent, like Kasim said, your employers, your staff, our engineers are willing to stand up and tell you this is not the right way to go and they would like time off in some other direction. If you have this culture, then the chances are high that even in large corporation, madness can prevail.
I used to work for a very large pharmaceutical company when I was here. And then went the entrepreneurial way in a startup, just as we were talking about. And one of the things that helped me was to suppress my kid in a candy store, mentality. When you're small, you really need to know, as Galdino pointed out, as Bharat was saying, you really need to know what you want to do first. What's your vision? What is it that you want to do? And you can't have it all. So focusing down there will reduce your cost. I'm in one of the highest risk, highest reward businesses around the world, drug discovery. We fail 99.9% of the time. So, and investments are quite huge. I'm sure people have read the paper, it costs $1.6 billion to develop one drug. Well, I don't think there's any other investment of the kind of that will help. But what we do is, we need to know what it is that we are going to be innovating in, very clearly up front, when you're small. We can't afford to be a kid in a candy store on this. So that will help in some of the costing part of it. and in defining what you're going to do.
There's, I'd like to take one or two questions that I have here in writing, and then I'll open it back up to the audience. Actually, this first one is, you know speed bumps in roads, sometimes called speeding policemen in various parts. A member of the audience has chosen to warn Bharat that in his new car that he needs to be aware that with your laser guide stability control, you make speed bumps ineffective. So,
Yeah.
I suspect it was said in humor, which is
Yes, it's true. I tried it out yesterday, day before, in my sister-in-law's side road. It's true. You go at such a speed, you think your car is going to fly off, but it just flies normally horizontally. Yes.
a question, and then I'll open it back up. Does your company simultaneously, or how does your company simultaneously incentivize employees to engage in the execution, obviously the cash cow part, and the innovation, while maintaining compensation parity or compensation types? Is if you have these two different demands in the corporation, I think the question is asking is how do you not have the two different cultures of the A team and the B team, or how does that work? And how do you treat them?
Well, the compensation factor is cultural again. I believe that some cultures, some countries would be more oriented towards, what is in it for me when you come with an idea. Others will be seeing that as more as part of being a member of a team that is creating things together. So I think it needs to accommodate. But I advocate in favor of culture of meritocracy. If there is merit, the share, let's say the incomes that come as a consequence of an innovative idea has to be shared. But it has to be shared when the returns are achieved. So, because at the end of the day, it needs to add value before it becomes a business case, as I said. So I think organizations are more and more recognizing the fact that they have to incentivize the mindset of creating solutions that come from the entire scope of the organization, but through meritocracy, when the solution is implemented, it achieves the objectives that it was designed for, so that's shared.
Yeah, in Advinus, the kind of stuff that we do, we're a bunch of scientists, and so I guess they're slightly different from, say, regular organizations. What I insist on is a bottoms-up approach. I was telling my colleagues just before this, is that we tell the employees that we're hiring them for is between the ears and what's below the elbows. Because we can teach a monkey to mix two chemicals, but we can never teach that monkey which two chemicals to mix. So the idea is that it's a bottoms-up approach. People have ideas, they have creative ideas, and we have created a mechanism for them to parse their own ideas and bring it upwards. They're self-critical, they understand that we can't have it all, and what is practical and what is not. And the reward of the system out of that is something that's very dear to them, and that is leading the execution of their idea to proof of concept. So while money is important in organizations like this, one of the driving forces that we found among the scientists is that their idea gets worked on in the organization, gets the funding to. And that's a very big driver for them. So if going through the parsing process and the evaluation, if the idea wins out at the end, that itself is reward enough for them to take it forward.
There's recently, in the last 10 years, there's been more good academic research on innovation and creativity than there's been in the last 40 years. And one of the leaders in this is a woman named Teresa Amabile, and part of her work was on the difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation. It said while the extrinsic works very well in many functions, operations, sales, it is not as good. It's not you do this and you get this patent, you get this reward. It's much more the intrinsic opportunity to work on what's meaningful to you, work on what you think is important in a way that you think is important.
Yeah, I would fully support it. For me, the intrinsic motivation is in an R&D environment much more important. And one thing which engineers really love is when their product, as Kasim says, not only gets funded, but also comes into the market. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the new Mercedes presentations, including magic body control, the engineer who developed it under me, he's the one who's presenting the car. And he's a level 4 engineer. And that adds tremendous pride, identification, and intrinsic motivation.
That's a great point. My career goal in 1991 today it's exactly the same as it was in 1991 when I started my career. And my career goal is to be part of the team that actually discovers a life-saving medicine. So it has nothing to do with all the titles and the shares and the equity and all this other stuff. It's that I would think walking down the road and imagining that something that I did helped 250 million people, I think there couldn't be a bigger ego trip than that. So I think that is a very big motivator.
Does personality matter in specifically Steve Jobs read so much about it? Would you call his approach method or madness? That's one. And second thing is, could you comment about the current innovations like Google self-driven car and Amazon most recently a home delivery system?
Repeat the question so everybody can hear.
Yeah, the second part of the question was about Google self-driving car and Amazon drones, etc. This is interesting that, and there comes the cultural difference between German and American system. The Google system, Larry Page put forward this challenge and said, is it possible to get out a fully autonomously driven car? And they have managed to develop a car with laser scanners, stereo cameras and radar. The German approach, and Mercedes was the fastest and the most ahead. We went the other approach and we said, let's make a car which is accident-free. A car which is accident-free will also lead to a car which can drive autonomously. Somewhere along the line we will meet. But currently, Mercedes has already a car on the road which is driving autonomously. And here comes the question of product liability in the United States. This is a tremendous issue, not only for the Google car, but also for the drones. There's an interesting article on the USA Today which says, what happens if a drone comes, your baby sitting on the porch or your cat, and it drops the parcel on its head? Or it flies into a wall, etc. There are tremendous product liability issues, and there's a cultural way things would be done differently. Amazon, Google, they say ultimate challenge, go address it. German companies would say, let's start with something easy. We use drones to go from point A and to point B, and A and B are clearly defined. And that's the way they would start doing it. And as also I say, our company, Mercedes-Benz, we did the safety thing first and then went into autonomous driving. And I say it very openly so that I hope I am YouTubed, because I know in 10 years' time we will have product litigation affairs, and we will always say the first priority was safety, second priority was comfort and autonomous driving. And God help you if we did it the other way.
Can you repeat again the first part of the question? I'm not sure I understood it in full.
Does personality matter in innovation, and specifically with respect to Steve Jobs? Would you call his approach method or madness?
Well, I think personality matters a lot in that, right? And Steve is or was a leader that built something in that direction that is here after him. So for me, it's method. Okay, of course, and other leaders with that same mentality will continue to transform the industry. I think this is what we need, actually. Leaders that have come to that point where the amount of engagement and challenging and most of all inspiration, impacts the amount of people that he need in his industry.
Another way to look at it more broadly than Steve Jobs, but in general, is that innovation has a component that's talent and a component that's skill, and a skill that can be taught. Many people think that creativity, particularly the creative aspect of innovation, is something you have and you don't. You are or you aren't. And my experience would suggest that's not true. There's clearly some people that are more creative than people that are at the genius level on that. But there's an enormous room from a management perspective to say there's things that can be done to promote and foster more creativity. So you don't have, it's not like you're born with it and you have to sort of, as a manager, figure out how to hire for it. I would say, though, that leads to a question that somebody else asked, is when you're thinking about the hiring process for the R&D organizations, and when you're thinking about the importance of innovation, how do you think about it? Are there criteria, or are there ways to make that decision?
Yeah, so I do meet most people who come into my organization, even if it's just for 10, 15 minutes. And what I try to gauge is the breadth of the experiences, not necessarily in drug discovery or science. I'm just interested in how interested they are in life around them. Unfortunately, I'm one of those guys who walks through a garden and notices the shape of leaves and why a leaf needs to be this shape versus another shape. I try to assess if that person is genuinely interested in things around them. That's one thing. The other thing I try to assess is the person introspective. Does that person try to look into themselves to see what they really want, what they think they would like to do? Some of these things I think are important to what I was pointing out in the promoters of innovation. Ideas, they can come from anywhere. You can't recognize them unless you're really interested in what's around you and aware of what's around you. If you're so focused on just stuff that you're doing every day that you're wearing, blue-colored glasses and everything is blue. So I'd rather be without the blue glasses, and I try to assess that, not the technical knowledge.
One last question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so just following up from this morning about the experimenting at base. I appreciate a lot of your experience having been in the corporate and so on. How do we turn the pyramid upside down, the way you push challenges? How to make innovation progressive from where it impacts all over? How to make it globally connected?
Actually, there's some of the slides I was thinking of had addressed that issue head on. So if you look at least the last several decades, innovation was essentially centered around the Western countries, developed countries, and that innovation found its way into the rest of the world in this unidirectional manner. What happened then about 15, 20 years ago is parts of innovation were shipped out, and you've got innovation occurring in these design companies and consultancies in the East. But the product still came back to the West of developed countries and marketed here. Well, that's changing now. It's changing now on multiple levels in multiple fields. My colleague Rashmi Barbari actually gives a talk on some of this stuff, and he uses the example of the nano car. Now, a lot of people then, God, I'm going to die in such a small little car and stuff. No, people have not died yet in multiple cars. It's a very innovative approach of producing a $2,000 car, and it works like a charm. I see it zipping along the highways just fine. The idea there is that innovation started in a developing or emerging country. and it's finding its way into the West. Similarly, for the first time, a medicine for malaria was discovered in India and is now going to find its way back into the developed countries. So that tide is slowly changing now, where innovation can occur anywhere in the world. Product development can happen anywhere in the world, and the market would be global. So that is changing now. That paradigm is changing, and it's going to be global. So hang on to your seat.
Yeah, so we just got one touch on that, because this has amazed me more recently. The fact that how internet has been made available in relation to innovative solutions that sometimes are developed in one industry, and how adaptive they can be to other industries. So the copying and paste and adaptation of innovative solutions among industries is happening now probably more than ever, right? When you have, medical industry, we were discussing that another day, developing fluid pumping mechanisms for, heart disease that is now used by the oil industry on oil exploration. You look at those two industries and what the heck they have in common, right? Well, they all deal with fluid, and they all deal with pumping, and they all deal with the same, basics of science. So, in today, it's much more valuable to technological centers and universities for companies to be connected to that and be able to copy and paste solutions that have been developed in other industries into their reality. And that is 10 times faster than trying to develop it yourself. So I think that's a dynamic that's changing that. It's really a paradigm we had before, which is eliminated today. And it's there, it's present, not scientific fiction.
Thank you. In closing, it may reflect my personality when faced with a question of do you want A or B, do you want method or madness, where I would want to say, well, why not both? I think to a certain extent a way to think about the innovation, to kind of sum it, is the essential paradox that's inherent in it, where it really is organized chaos. Because you have to have a certain amount of organization to it, but you have to have a certain amount of chaos, and you need to be tolerant to both. One end of the spectrum and the other is not going to work. I want to take this opportunity to thank the panel for sharing their many years of experience, and to you for the questions and knowledge. So a round of applause to you and to the speakers.
Thank you all who came to this session. I sincerely thank the moderator, Rick, and all speakers who took time to come to this session. On behalf of the IT 2013 conference, please accept a small token of our appreciation.